Okay, I am going to start by showing you a couple ads that we did during my time at Ford Motor Company. And to give you a little background, I'll go through it again after the ads. The last third of my career at Ford, I was the national media manager at Ford Motor Company, which is, of course, placing and buying the ad space for the ads to run. But my last year at Ford, I was in charge of content for all Ford brands. So I'm going to show you 3 commercials and then give you a little bit of discussion on the last one that I'm going to show, because it's kind of a case study of what can go wrong. So the first ad is on the F-150, and we called it Smart Brainiac. So the big thing about this ad was it was a formula that worked very well for Ford F-150 trucks. Dennis Leary, the actor, was the commentator and the speaker, and that formula we used for about 10 years. And Ford trucks are the best-selling trucks for 42 years running. The next one I'm going to show is called For Those Who Keep, as I talk while I type, Those Who Keep Pushing. And this is one with Ford Escape. And the song was by Harry Belafonte. It was for the launch of the new Escape. And it wasn't the best commercial, but it ran. Yeah.
For the ones who keep pushing, always unstoppable.
Now this commercial ran in Spanish and English. It did better in Spanish. It resonated better with the Latino audience than the general market. But Escape has also been one of the best compact SUVs running. And then the next one I'm going to show you is the last spot. It's my favorite. And then, but it wasn't the favorite of a lot of people at Ford, and maybe we can get some feedback on it. If I can find it. There we go. And this is called Cats and Dogs.
Real drive. Some cats just know how to roll.
So this spot ran for about a week, and it was pulled off the air. It did very well in testing, and it was pulled by senior management. Any ideas why? The cat was fully buckled in, and PETA approved it, but that is a good point, because you always have to have somebody on the set making sure no animals are harmed in the filming of the commercial. So that's a good thought. So what it was, and I guess I'll give you a little bit of a hint. Senior management pulled it because they weren't comfortable with the ad. They had approved it. It cost over $1 million to produce. It ran in about $500,000 of TV before they decided to yank it. The target of the target customer of that ad was young. The focus audience, which is around 25 to 35-ish, that's who we wanted. But senior management at Ford decided they were too uncomfortable because it wasn't your normal type of Ford advertising. So they pulled it after a week. And it was hard because we couldn't necessarily change their minds. And it was kind of a waste because it actually, like I said, among the target customer, tested very well. But we kind of called it the focus group of one, which is something when you're in advertising you have to be careful of, because a focus group of one can totally derail your campaign, especially if they're not your target. If your target's a 25 to 35-year-old and a 60-year-old man is making the decision to pull the ad, you have to balance how far you fight to keep it on the air and how far you just decide it's time to let go and maybe go on and develop a better ad. But those things happen and you kind of move on. And Teresa, I'm trying to figure out how there we go, got it. So I'll introduce myself again. I'm going to discuss a couple things about the changing media landscape and how it's affecting advertising, how it might impact you as a new job entrant into the marketplace, and then tips on managing your career as you move forward. Very open. If you'd like to interrupt me, go ahead. We can take questions during the presentation. If not, we can wait to the end. It's totally up to you, whatever works best for you. So who am I? I'm a graduate of Michigan State, very proud, got my undergrad and grad here in the Broad Business School. I worked for Ford for 32 years, starting in the sales and in the field, selling vehicles to dealerships. And then I moved into marketing, and finally the last third of my career was where I wanted to be, which was media and advertising. Along the way, I developed and trained marketing personnel at Ford in conjunction with the Northwestern Kellogg School of Management. I also, at one time, built and managed an accessory retail store in San Diego, California, built it from the ground up, targeted toward youth marketing. And I said I was the national media manager, and then at the end of my career, the Tier 1 content manager. I managed a budget of over $1 billion, and I managed 3 agencies, including the multicultural marketing agencies, Latino and African American. Some of my extracurricular activity in the recent years, I was a recruiter and mentor for Ford Motor Company. I won a National Design Award for the store we built in San Diego. Been on a couple Effie winning teams. We won 2 bronze, 1 gold. I built a SEMA Hot Wheels car from the ground up, and we won an award at SEMA, which is a specialty vehicle manufacturing convention in Las Vegas. I've also been a past member of the Association National Advertisers Media Leadership Committee, past president of the AdCraft Club. I have also judged the Effies. So here are some of the things I've done recently in media and advertising at Ford Motor Company. We did Bonnaroo, the Essence Music Festival. These are all activities that we did as a result of media we purchased to put our advertising in. Toby Keith was one of our big guys for trucks for years. I think we've just wound down that partnership. And one of the things most recently that we did, we were very proud, we partnered up with Wanderlust, the yoga touring events, and we were on site offering test drives for vehicles. Right now, after Ford, I own my own consulting agency. I do media and advertising consulting. My clients include ad agencies, media companies, and design firms. Just signed a new client last week, which is a digital technology firm called BrandChat. I'm on the board of the Detroit Advertising Association, the board of directors for the American Cancer Society. I also work with Wayne State on their marketing curriculum and their advisory board. I do the mentorship in women in advertising here at Michigan State, and I also take part in the Broad project called the MSU Wisdom Project, which lines me up with a business candidate, and we do one-on-one mentoring. So that's who I am. What I want to talk about now is some of the things I've seen in the changing landscape of advertising. I know you guys have all taken a lot of classes where you hear digital's it, programmatic's where it's going to go. But what does that really mean as you move forward and try to assimilate in defining your job as you move forward? So we'll talk a little bit about that. But any way you look at it, the objective of advertising is to impact the purchase funnel. And have you guys all been, do you guys know what the purchase funnel is? You guys have been through it in class. And there are several different ways to look at the purchase funnel. Most recently, the funnel is now including one-to-one engagement or customer loyalty. And I think a lot of that has to do with the impact of social media and one-to-one conversations with customers. But awareness, interest, communication, and consideration are very, very much important to your brands. And that impacts where you're going to place your advertising and what type of advertising strategy you're going to put forward. So if there's one thing I can tell you is you need to make sure that whenever you do an advertising strategy, you need to know what you're trying to do and how you're going to measure it. If you're trying to impact sales, which would be at the bottom of the funnel, you might use a lot more programmatic. You might use one-to-one conversation. If you want to gain entrance or eyeballs, then you're going to go back to huge display ads or mass media, including broadcast or any type of streaming television or TV. So it's very key. And then again, know how you're going to measure. As elements of the purchase funnel are changing, so does the mechanism for attracting customers. And this is also how you advertise, what your content's going to look like, and what you're going to do to impact the marketplace. So the media channels, which are the mechanisms of how you're going to transport these advertising messages, are becoming more and more cluttered. And this is a big challenge for your ad agencies, your media reps who sell the media spaces, and also your clients, because marketing budgets are finite. You never ever know, what you know is that those budgets do not have a tendency to increase unless something really happens great in the company and they have a ton of money to spend. More than likely, your ad dollars decrease along the year as you move forward. So you have to be very careful how you divvy out your money and how you spend it appropriately to still reach those advertising objectives and messages you want to do. So there's a lot of clutter in the marketplace. You all have heard the fragmentation of media, fragmentation of the digital space, the social world, and everything else. It's very hard to break through and say, here's my message, come look at my brand, here's what I want you to do. Come with me and let me sell you a product or let me influence your life as you move forward. This is the hardest thing to do when there's so much going on. If you look at how you use your mobile phone today or how you impact with social media, you get clustered with ads every time you pick up your phone. Who breaks through and actually attracts your interest? If you break that code, you might understand content as you move forward. So media and content clutter provide an opportunity for advertisers. As rapidly as the media environment changes, content requirements do as well. So there's always going to be a need for content and how it is put into the media channel is always evolving. The key is keeping the content fresh while using media channels to reach your audience. You have to remember, though, content or production dollars and media dollars are both finite in the budget equation. So you have to constantly manipulate the budget to make sure you're able to produce enough content to satisfy your channels, which means sometimes you can't be all things to all people, and you have to pick and choose where you're going to develop your content appropriately. So right now, about 1/3 of the marketing budgets are devoted to content marketing. And what I mean by that, 1/3 of the marketing budgets are used right now to develop this content. That's up pretty well because you used to only have a couple of channels you were producing ads for. It used to be TV, print, a little bit of digital, a little bit of out of home. And now it's exploded because within digital, the fragmentation is numerous. And how you find the media mix that you can afford and how you, again, bolt in your content increases the challenges in the advertising industry. And like I said, you know, you've got advocacy on the end now of the new purchase funnel, which is your one-to-one social engagement that you have to keep an eye on. So content creation isn't necessarily all things digital. Digital media is in the forefront of all discussions. You can't forget the power of traditional media channels. And I'm going to give you a little bit of Mythbusters coming in about traditional media. So bear with me. So who your audience is and what the message you convey determines your media channel. Again, I said, where are you in the funnel and what are you trying to accomplish? Content creation with media strategy and planning go hand in hand. Some companies have some issues where they use several different agencies to produce their advertising plans. And sometimes the media agency may not be talking to the content agency. It's being able to mesh that together, which gives you the best media balance and advertising balance. So here are some things that you've probably heard all through your career at Michigan State in advertising. Print's dead. There's no place for traditional media. Traditional TV's dead. Radio's dead. Programmatic is all you need. Direct mail's dead. What's the right answer? Well, the right answer is digital's always part of the equation. But is there room for these traditional media channels? And the answer is yes, because they actually are reinventing themselves and becoming part of the ever-changing media world, which means they are becoming more brands than channels. And I'm going to show you a couple things on how advertisers and media channels are reacting to that. So the first thing we said, TV isn't relevant anymore. If that's the case, why are some of the largest digital companies advertising on TV? Twitter, Amazon, Google, Apple, and Facebook were the largest advertisers during last year's Christmas season. Or the biggest audience driver is the Super Bowl, which last year cost $5.1 million for a 30-second spot. The reason why they use it, obviously, is because of where it is in the purchase funnel, which is eyeballs. It doesn't play the most important role in the media channel anymore that it used to. It used to be TV was everything, but it does have its use. And it's mass awareness, efficient eyeballs on your product. Video and TV have fragmented. You have a lot of streaming services that you're available to you, but it's still video and it's still TV. So you have more choices. It's interesting, and it will be interesting to watch down the road how all these companies fight for your advertising dollars. So you have all these enhanced viewing options. You've got Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple Plus now, HBO Max. You have all the streaming services, but you also have the big networks like ABC, CBS, and NBC, who also have their own streaming services now too. So consolidation will continue in the segment, but TV is not going away. And there's still DVRs. I hate to say it. I talked to somebody in the media business and they're like, yeah, DVRs are still there because of time shifting. Not sure about that, but it does with your on-demand allow you to do time shifting as you watch your content. Big networks are still big dollars. This is an eye chart. I just wanted to show you the big one of them all is Disney now with the acquisition of Fox. NBC is now part of Xfinity and Verizon, and CBS and Viacom are now going to merge. The next chart I showed you is just a landscape, and don't try to read this, look at the colors. The colors in blue are now the investment in content. So as you merge from the purple, which is the companies that distribute media, you're seeing that a lot more companies are now spending money developing content. I mean, Netflix, you could go all over the place and see what they're doing. I think YouTube's going to end up in this landscape pretty soon. But the bottom line on this chart is content is starting to overtake distribution. Second thing, print's dead. Yeah, might be. Paper print might be, but a lot of people still want their magazines when they're on the beach or when they're doing whatever. Successful print brands are reinventing themselves. Again, they're becoming digital brands. They all have, when they launch a magazine now, they also launch a digital presence. On a social media report by the MPA, which is the Magazine Publishers Association, top 10 magazine brands pop really well in your Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with tens of millions of impressions. So there's still, the brand is still relevant. Maybe not so much for the magazine, but the brand. Now the research says people prefer print on paper for reading, and it says 73% of adults feel reading gives you more enjoyment than reading on a tablet. I don't know, I'm a tablet person. I'd much rather read on a tablet, but a lot of people still enjoy their printed material. What does that say for magazines? They are, like I said, they're reinventing themselves as a brand, but this year alone, 77 new magazines have launched through first quarter of 2019. Millennials also consume print. Print is the original on-demand medium. You read it when you want it, and it enhances engagement. It has been shown in research by the MPA that there are call to actions in magazines that people will take action. There's also been some iconic magazine covers throughout the years and still are. Everybody always looks at Time Person of the Year. So these types of brands are not going away. They have a lot of history and they're still going to be around. Now, they're going to look a little different, but it doesn't mean that print's going away. Case in point is Hearst. Hearst is a privately owned magazine publisher of brands such as Food Network, HGTV, Redbook, Elle, House Beautiful. It has now acquired several smaller publishing, becoming a bigger conglomerate. But they developed a couple things. They sell themselves now as a brand, and what I mean by that is, when I was a client at Ford, I used to have a sales rep come in. I'd have one come in to sell me the magazine, one would come in to sell me the events, and one would come in to sell the digital. Now they sell themselves as a brand. And where they used to have sales targets for every single channel, they have one target. and it doesn't matter what you buy. That's important because now now you don't have 3 reps calling on you. You have 1 representing the brand as a whole. But they came up with a great formula on how to launch successful magazines, print and digital. So what they did, and this was never been done, believe it or not, people used to just push the magazines out by the millions and not think about it. They would pilot a magazine. So like if you saw Food Network or HGTV or Chip and Joanna Gaines or Magnolia magazine, it would come out as a pilot. They would collect 6 months of research. Then they would put the magazine out every other month for the rest of that year. And then the next year, roll it out as a monthly, accompanied by a digital website that mirrored the magazine and stayed true to the brand. But they didn't bring it out until they knew it was the right formula. Radio's dead. I don't know, do you guys listen to the radio in your car anymore, or are you streaming on your phones? Usually streaming on your phones. But also people use a lot of streaming services for radio. Radio is reinventing themselves. There's a resurgence of the companies. Again, you're going to see some right sizing in the radio industry. You're going to see a little bit more consolidation, I think, among some of these companies. Digital will continue to fragment. This is what happens in a minute in 2019 digitally. Probably 41.6 million messages are sent. And I pulled this off in my research, and it's already out of date because this doesn't even include TikTok, which is a new social media. I mean, I'm just like, I looked at it and it doesn't even have TikTok. It's, it's so new. So yes, some of the ways to communicate are going to fragment. Digital as a whole in advertising isn't necessarily going to fragment. I think you're going to see movement within digital. For example, programmatic. You're going to have the channel space right-sized. Programmatic is going to become more on the video side. Display is going to continue to decline. It's going to be about 68% of the digital spend by next year, which is a big feat. And the reason why advertisers like programmatic is because it's highly measurable. You know where your dollars are going. It's done automatically. You don't need as many heads to execute it. But I think it's going to grow within itself, within the digital space, and video is going to come up. Major media players will expand their social presence, like Facebook and Amazon. Amazon is entering the advertising space very quickly, and content creation is key to success. Again, the other thing that's going to be very important moving forward is measurement and analytics. If you can't measure your media, you're not going to spend the money. Whoever figures out a single reference point for all media channels, and what I mean by that, television's measured by a cost per thousand. If you can be able to right size that to every media channel, you've kind of won the lottery. And the importance of measurement is not going to go away. So what does that mean for all of you? And I'm going to skip this example. It's a company I work with, but they reinvented themselves from a catalog company into a total digital company. But what does this mean for you as you venture out into the world of employment? Especially here in the Detroit market, the expansion of non-auto companies are going to give you opportunities with different agencies. So I think as a media sales rep with programmatic, those opportunities are a little bit lower than working with agencies and working with new companies. Content creation is a huge opportunity for you. There are going to be multiple jobs in all areas, content creation and also the media planning that goes behind what content is going to go where. One-to-one conversations will continue to grow, so there's also an opportunity in social media. In fact, I talked to a gentleman that actually mentors me in the advertising space, and he said, if I would tell your students that you're talking to one thing, it's look how you consume your media and think about what you would want to change, and that will be your job in the future. Programmatic video is going to be an opportunity for you all. Programmatic is not going away. That's also a great opportunity. Analytics, for anybody who loves to find out if the ads actually work, which God love you if you can figure out those numbers, because I never could. But that is an opportunity for people as well. And company consolidations in the ad space, and what I mean by that, agencies are going to continue to consolidate and change and right size, but there will be job opportunities because attrition will occur. And attrition is a natural way of getting people with those old skills out, and people like yourselves with new skills will come in, replace them, and be able to reinvent the way they go to market. So, advice for managing your career. The first thing I would say is to be curious and ask questions. And it means ask questions of anybody. If you don't understand something, go ahead and ask. If you don't want to ask in a meeting, go privately and ask the individual who held the meeting, what did that mean? How did you get there? And also understand the big picture. Understand if you're an associate media planner or an account trainee, junior account manager, how does your contribution fit in the big organization? Network and find a mentor. It's easy to put on paper, but make sure you network within the company you're working on and find somebody to help you with that. Internships are a good thing even after graduation. Some agencies and some marketing companies prefer graduates for their internship programs, which can lead to jobs. Connect. Eye contact and writing skills. Make sure you're able to talk one-on-one. It's very hard, but you have to make sure that you're able to keep eye contact with people. Learn how to write a point of view. And it was really funny, somebody who reviewed this presentation said, does everybody know what a point of view is? Does everybody know how to write a point of view, or do you know what a point of view is that you would write? So a point of view is if somebody asks you, should I put this content on TV? You would do the research and say yes or no. My last 3 years at Ford, when I would ask the agency for a point of view, I would get a 50-page deck, and I would never get a recommendation. It was, well, you could do this, or you could do that. And I would send it back to the agency saying, what do you recommend? And then it would come back to me, and it would say, what do you recommend? And I would send it back. I said, I'm asking you as the expert, what should I do? Don't be afraid to give your opinion. Your client may tell you no, but that's okay. You're able to write a point of view, concisely show, and not 50 pages of a deck, but concisely show why you make the recommendation you do. It goes a long way in agencies, and that art of writing that is lost right now. Again, ask questions. I put it twice because I think it's that important. Speak to contribute, not to be heard. When you get in a room, or maybe you've seen this at internships, some people like to speak just to make sure that senior management knows they're in the room. They may not say anything that's important, but they like to speak. People see right through that. So make sure when you do contribute, you have something to say. If you don't have anything to say, it's all right. You'll get your turn sometime. Join professional organizations. I'm a big believer in this. And one, if you stay in the Michigan or Detroit area, you should join AdCraft. AdCraft was very instrumental for me developing contacts and developing networking opportunities, and it has given me job leads in my own business today. Has anybody here ever attended AdCon? Okay, AdCon's coming up November 2nd. For those of you who have never been, It's at Wayne State University, and it is a full day of learning what a day in the life in advertising is. You could get some resume advice. You could do some networking. It is a good way. There is a website. It's adcondetroit.org. And if anybody needs that, I'll leave the information so you can have it. But if you can head down to Wayne State, I highly recommend it. And just so you know, more people from MSU went last year than Wayne State. Maybe that's why they have marketing advisory board. I don't know. Number 9, don't be a cubicle dweller or a headphone mole. Very easy to sit in your cube all day and never socialize. If you do that, people are not going to know you. And it's so easy to put on those headphones and listen to music while you're banging out your spreadsheets or whatever you want to do. It's okay to do that once in a while, but don't do that for 8 hours solid, or you're never going to figure out what's going on in your place of business. You need to be aware of what's going on. And take control of your career. Make sure you're on LinkedIn, your resume is updated on a regular basis, have career discussions with a supervisor. And this is what I tell everybody in the MSU Wisdom Project. If you don't like your job, don't stay. And that is a big difference from when we grew up. Because when I grew up, I hated my job. My parents would tell me to tough it out. Well, then you blink your eyes and you've been in a job you don't like for 5 years and you're not happy. There are so many different ways you can take your career. So just evaluate where you are every 6 months, and if you feel you need to make a change, you probably need to make a change. And it's a lot more acceptable these days to job hop among companies than it was when I started with Ford Motor Company, and that's probably why I was there for so long. There were times in my career I wish I would have left. I'll be honest with you, even though it was the best company I've ever worked for, and I have worked for different companies than Ford. And be inquisitive about career pathing. A lot of people in companies don't offer that information up. So you may have to take it upon yourself to say, where do I go next? What are my opportunities? What can I do? So it's, it's a good thing to do that. And with that, I think that's all I have. If there are any questions, I know I went through some of the stuff kind of fast. Let me know, and thanks for listening. I hope it was a good presentation because I have to give it to 2 more colleges this year. But thank you. Any questions? My favorite project I worked on? I have a couple. One of them was the accessory store that I built in San Diego because they gave me a pot of money and said, go build a retail store. And it was a blank slate, and I was able to do whatever I wanted. And I had to hire a brand new agency. I had to put together store designs, everything. So that was cool. The only bad thing was I left my family, and I had 2 small children, so I left them alone for 2 weeks out of the month. And that was kind of hard. But that was one of my favorites. And is there another follow-up question to that? That's my daughter. I've had a couple, but the biggest one was when I had to put together a media plan with all digital. And what was challenging about that, we knew it was the wrong decision. Digital has its place, and the best advertising plans, again, go back to the purchase funnel and what you needed. And I knew we weren't going to have enough mass awareness to fill the purchase funnel, to have enough people to consider the brand. But I had no choice, and I fought it a lot until my boss pulled me in the office and said, enough, we hear you, and you can say I told you so after the campaign. Interesting point on that is one of our competitors in the automotive industry, General Motors, had to go and actually put a $10 million print campaign together because they had gone so heavy in programmatic, they didn't have enough people at the top of the funnel to consider the brand. Unfortunately, then their budget was cut and a lot of the print went away, but they were still having problems where they couldn't fill the funnel. American Idol was fun too, and that was difficult because the production company was very difficult to work with. They had a lot of rigid controls and what you could do integrating your vehicles into the show. So that was tough too. That was a lot of headaches.